The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Carlos.
And it's Friday, and boy, we got so much to talk about. We need a mini-series.
I'll tell you, we just keep getting higher and higher and higher every time you turn around.
Or lower and lower and lower, depending on what you're looking at. And if we look at statistics upside down, we're at the top of everything. So.
I know. Well, it's interesting. I want to start out real fast and furious and get right to some of this stuff. Mark Dion presented a very good opinion piece on January 20th. Living and Dying, a conspiracy behind the closing of Fall River Sam's Club. Don't buy it. He's right. He says the Sam's Club on Brighton Avenue is closing because A, Kenny Fiola is a fool. Well, he's not too far off there. Sam Sutter is a thief. The Karam screwed us again, and only in Fall River. The last is the store wasn't making enough money, and the guy who decided to close it has never seen Fall River. Well, the store wasn't making enough money, and the guy who closed it didn't see Fall River because he's not going to. And, we always have to make excuses. And this article said it very clearly. And then we are always arguing, what should we bring to the city? What should we bring to the city? What should we bring to the city? Well, let me quote something from an article that appeared in the Conservative Tribune in regards to what happened to the Walmart in Massachusetts. Okay, first off, they looked at the fact that Massachusetts recently raised our minimum wage to $10 an hour, soon to be 11. And people are talking about 15. Well, when you're looking at this, because this is one of the things that created this situation, it was a main factor in the decision. But sadly, the largest, and this is the quote from it, the largely impoverished community had fought for years to get to Walmart to open a store in their area. But the retailer has been consistently attacked by liberal labor and environmental activists and union organizers, despite the fact that most of the employees of the store rejected efforts to unionize them. Now this is the key line here, anyone with even a modicum of economic understanding knows that arbitrarily raising the minimum wage, which means higher labor costs, will result in lost jobs and closed stores as employees attempt to balance the thin margin between their profits and expenses. To add insult to injury, the Massachusetts tax rates and policies and the recent addition of mandatory sick time greatly diminished the company's ability to maintain any profitability.
Okay, well, that is a skewed article, number one.
Yes, it is.
It's a skewed article because, I know the Conservative Tribune is against unions, against people getting a livable wage. Everything is going to affect the business bottom line, and they would reinstitute slave labor if they could. But let's call it a spade. They're half right. There's a germ of truth in everything. And the germ of truth is that when we deal with areas that are in fact impoverished, those types of increases in operating costs break the businesses because they're operating at such a small profit margin because the people don't have any money, that once you increase wages and benefits to the people, where in another area where the profit margins are higher, the increase in the minimum wage will actually increase their business because it will give people more money to spend. But in a place like Fall River, where people don't have two nickels to rub together, and these businesses are operating on a wafer-thin margin, increases in minimum wages and increases in benefits like this that are mandated by the state have the effect that we already see, which is, the minimum wage hasn't raised yet, but, Sam's Club's closed. We are an impoverished area. and you can dislike the adjective, and the city council can say, that's a lie, but everybody says it. Moody's and Poor's, we'll get into that. They dropped our bond rating because of the economic status. But the reality is, look, we're helping. Linda Pereira wants to market the city. Well, you want to market an impoverished, crime-ridden city? We had a guy sword fighting in a convenience store with the other guy. Then the other night we have a guy, a Chinese delivery guy gets held up in the parking lot outside the restaurant at 5 o'clock in the evening. So let's market that. But the reality is, these businesses can't sustain themselves in our area. And it's a simple matter of the fact, and our city council aids and abets in this condition because they continue to allow low-income housing to grow and grow in this city. And I think you said, Carol Fiola said, well, what do you expect us to say? Tell them not to come? Well, no. I don't expect you to say that. I expect you to take the billboards down that are asking them to come, and I expect you to reduce the amount of low-income housing in the city, because we are way over the mandatory percentage of low-income housing. So let's look at this for what it is. And, Sam's Club is just the tip of the iceberg, but it's an indicator of the delusionary council and the delusionary Office of Economic Development that continue to lie and promote propaganda to try to say the whole world's wrong. Moody's and Poor's is wrong. Everybody that looks in Fall River and uses words like lower socioeconomic groups, impoverished, and all these other things that indicate that statistics like almost 1/4 of the population is living below the poverty level. This is the place you're going to market and bring business in? No, we need to change this city. We need to give money back to the taxpayers. We need to begin to operate, try to get small businesses in first, and try to get a demographic in this city that actually has 2 nickels to rub together.
Well, Chip, it gets to be crazy because they don't want to hear what has to be said. And when they hear it, they just ignore it. Now, enough on the impoverished community there. Let's move on to the opiate czar.
Oh.
Okay, the opiate czar.
The opiate czar.
Yep. Even though the people have not shown support for this, and the city council shot it down 6-3, the mayor decided, hey, we're still going to do it. And now, Chip, I'm going to push your button. And he's going to be paid for by grants, but the city's going to pay for his...
When interviewed, what did the mayor say?
Yeah. Amazing. Well, he wants to be 100% transparent, which I think was great. But, he puts in here that this, they say that he's going to be, his pension is going to be funded by the city. Now, we already have an overburdened pension system that's underfunded. As a matter of fact, requests came in to the retirement board, if I'm not mistaken, to delay payments of their mandatory contributions because they had to choose between making the payment to the retirement board or paying salaries.
Well, I'm gonna make it public right now. I did make a presentation in front of the city council, which cited statistics that in 2002 we were 80% funded. Now we're only 40% funded. The fact is, the city did not put in, when compared to New Bedford, there was almost $90 million New Bedford put into their system that we didn't put in. They underfunded the system. They created this problem. It's not the retirement system that's unhealthy. It's the way the city manipulates the funds and didn't pay their fair share over the course of the last over a decade, and they created it. And the system is now on its way back. We've adopted we adopted a payment system, and we're going to hold the city to paying what they're supposed to pay. We're not going to allow it as was done previously. But here's another example. You're going to put this guy in a retirement system, a grant employee in the retirement system, a made-up political job. while the people who spent 30 years working in City Hall or 30 years on a police and fire department protecting the city, you know, got to worry about their pension, and we inflate this pension system and further burden it by creating all these political jobs and then dumping them all in the system. Well, I am going to ask for a legal opinion if we're mandated to allow him to pay into the system, well, why we should pay. You know, I don't know. He's going to go from Star, where he's got a 401k, to the system that, the retirement system in the state, and take advantage of that thing that was created for people who were basically full-time city employees for decades, and he's going to get a bite of that apple. It's not going to. You know, it's not going to, I am going to ask questions. There will be some issues with this, and I am going to take issue with this, because I take exception with the fact that we have to have the you know, non-city employees in the city of Fall River's retirement system.
But you know,
when you get a, well, let me say, when you get a check, when you retire, it says Fall River contributory retirement on it. Doesn't say CDA, Housing Authority, and all those people are technically not City of Fall River employees, yet they allowed them to come into the pension system, which creates a greater financial burden on the system. And I don't have any objection to anybody getting a pension, but if they're getting federal money, put them in a federal pension. If they're getting state money, put them in a state pension system.
I agree.
Why should you put it in the smallest unit, the smallest governmental unit you can have, that has the least amount of discretionary cash? Let the state pick up the tab, let the feds pick up the tab, and I'm not happy about that, and I am asking questions about it, and I have asked questions, and I will ask for a legal opinion. And, you know, but I mean, the sheer arrogance of just saying, you know, screw you to the people in the city council, and saying, hey, I'm giving my childhood mentor a job whether you like it or not. Even though we have already seen that his performance was not, at this job, was not that good in the first place, but absent performance. Well, why should he work for the city? And I'm going to quote City Council President Sean Cadine. We thought it would be more cost-effective to partner with Star, Cadine said. Quote, the mayor talks about public-private. Our agreement with Star is a clear example. Why didn't we just leave him at Star?
Why? I'll tell you why. Because this is what the mayor feels about the people of Fall River.
Kneel before Zod!
Yeah, and that truly is the situation. He is actually living up to the modicum that we have out there, the nickname that the Herald News created and we've run, you know, forth with, and that is the Boy Emperor. He actually does not care what the people say. He does not care what the city council say, who's the legislative branch of government for the city. He says, I'm going to give my friends jobs, and that's the way it is. And he even said on Channel 10, he's going to get these people jobs from Rhode Island to replace people in Fall River, because we know Fall River people don't know how to work.
Remember one thing, as Mr. Kadim said, it's a public-private partnership. But when he works for Star, he doesn't have a public pension.
That's right. And this is the problem we have. I mean, I don't know how you feel, Carlos. You seem to be very...
No, I have to say this. Just being in here and listen to Chip and to you, I mean, it's nothing else that we can add. I feel like a student listen to a professor. What else can we say? You know, I totally agreed with this, what you're saying. And again, I don't doubt that Mike is, you know, knows how to do the job, has been doing the job for all this long. But what I want to say, the message that I have for the mayor is, please listen to the people. That's what we ask when we support you, and I support you. I was with you 100%. And I know you can do the job. And it's, you know, please listen to people. Educate yourself, you know, ask the questions to the people, please not to the circle of friends that just gonna say yes to everything that you want. Go out of that circle and reach out to people that know about stuff and retirements. Talking about retirements, I don't think it's anybody else in the city that you can reach without you. You know enough for. You've been involved for so many years. You've been in both sides of the fence, so you know what you're talking about. And the only thing I have to ask the mayor is this: please go out of the circle of friends that you put them there, because you trust them, and I cannot argue with that. You need that people around you that you trust. But they're all going to say yes for everything that you say. So please go outside that circle of friends and reach out to people that are on the other side and they want to help you.
Well, we have to ask, a very, very serious question, and it indicates one of the major problems we have in the city. We have to ask why. Why is this job being created? Because it already exists. They say matter can't be created or destroyed, but the matter already exists. The job is there, but he doesn't get the kind of pension system. He doesn't get a cut on the grants in the job he gets. Then there's another question. He's going to make $55,000 or whatever, but then he gets a percentage of grants. So is that going to be reflected in his retirement?
Of course.
Let's say
Perry Long's was.
Let's say after he gets all his cuts from the grants, he's making 6 figures. So now, instead of getting a pension that's based on his star salary in the private sector, he's going to milk the city system for an $80,000 pension. That's 80% option A of $100,000. Why do we need this job? It already exists. And as Mr. Kadim says, it's already there. Why not public? Why not partner? Why? The only answer can be he's given a friend a good deal. And government, that's what government does, and that's what politicians do, and that's what we have to stop. They don't ever care about how much money they spend, because it's your money. It's my money. It's not their money. And they don't care how big the budget is. And I'm going to segue into another subject.
Oh, no, not the Moody rating.
the Moody credit rating. And I'm going to quote Kathy Ann Viveris, because along this theme, it's not new debt, quote, unquote, Viveris said. Quote, some of this is moving short-term debt to long-term debt. Some is getting restructured, unquote. So let me explain what that statement means from the person that got rehired because she's a financial wizard. They're moving short-term debt to long-term debt. And this is unlike you and I, this is the way government works, because government doesn't care about money. They just give all their friends the money. When you move short-term debt, let's say you bought a car and you had a lot of money, and you said, I'm only going to take a 2-year loan, and you're paying a lot of money. You're paying maybe $500 a month for a car payment. But you're going to pay the car off in 2 years, and you're not going to pay very much interest. And all of a sudden, you have some financial problems, and you can't afford the $500 a month premium. So you refinance the car for 6 years. And now you're only paying $200 a month. So you free up $300 to use on necessary expenses. But that's not the way government works. They sell these things as short term. We're not going to pay a lot of interest. Let's take this because we're not going to pay a lot of interest. It's short term. And then they roll it into a long term to free up money so they can get more short term money and give more people jobs. Because this isn't going to save money. This just reduces the amount of money they're paying for that debt so they can create more debt and more jobs. This is the problem. And this is why our credit rating went down. And I remember when Sean Kadim went before the council as the city administrator and said, oh, bonding is a good thing. Well, no, it's not. We've said that for the last 3 years. You can't keep running crap up on your credit card, because ultimately the credit card companies shut you off. And that's what Moody's doing. We're on our way to junk bond status.
And look at what Kathy Ann's doing on Wednesday. She's going to Boston. She's got to go to the state auditor, begging for the state to guarantee their loans.
Yeah, so we can get more debt. So we can get more debt. So we can make more jobs and give more pay raises out and create more debt. So let's use them to get a better credit rating so we can get more credit. But then what happens? Like the people who got 25 credit cards and max them all out and ultimately you can't pay. Except when that happens to them, they lose their house, they lose their cars, they go bankrupt. The only problem with what the city of Fall River does is the city of Fall River may go into receivership, but it'll be you that loses your house. It'll be you that loses your pension. It'll be you that loses everything you ever worked your whole life for because of these absolute greedy morons. And that's what they are. They just can't stop no matter what. And I mean, he got in knowing this city's in financial trouble, and we have this. And like I said, we're on our way to junk bond status. And you know what the next step after junk bond is? Receivership.
Detroit.
That's right.
You know,
receivership,
but the thing is,
bankruptcy.
And remember, Sean Kadim is the same person who stood with, you, as a matter of fact, I think it was, up in Boston when they were trying to screw, was it the retirees?
The retirees.
And he said, we don't care, pass the law.
Yeah, he also said that
And
at that time, and that was a while ago, that we were $500 million in debt.
Right.
And I'm sure that Councilor Pereira doesn't remember it, but there is a actual tape of the city council meeting when I made a presentation, and she corroborated the fact that she was in the room when Mr. Kadim said that. So like I said, our debt, we're like, it's amazing. They think that this place is impoverished, so what's the answer? Make it more impoverished.
Right.
Create greater debt. And it's like, this is why we have to put, it's like we keep saying that and people go, oh, no, I'm not. Look, there's a new Bernie Sanders commercial, and whether you like Bernie Sanders or not is irrelevant. But he's talking about how less than 0.1% of the people control 90% of the wealth in this country. And he said that the only way to stop this from happening while everybody else is becoming, there's no middle class, it's evaporated. The only way to stop this is if millions of people get together and show them that we run the government. And it's the same thing in this city. We've got to tell the city council, we've got to call the city council, we've got to call the mayor's office and say, stop this, reduce the size of government, put our money where it belongs in essential services, and if you do this, you're gone.
The kicker is, though, Chip, that the Moody report said something very clearly, and I want to read the quote. The downgrade of the underlying rating to A3 reflects a negative operating trend over the last 3 years that has diminished reserves. The rating also incorporates the sizable tax base with below-average demographics, in other words, poor,
yeah,
including outsized property rates and unemployment levels, meaning they don't work. While it has a manageable but high debt burden and a large pension liability. Now,
which they created.
But this is Moody's. It's not like they know anything.
They're only
they're like they're like Milton Friedman. They don't know nothing. Okay?
Yeah, they're like the Oracle at Delphi when it comes to credit. But you read that. It said, let's go over that again, CJ. It says a manageable but high debt burden.
Right.
So what is our city working toward? Getting an unmanageable high debt. That's what we're working for. We're trying to create more debt. And by going long-term and then spending more short-term, we're trying to create a larger debt. And this is what's wrong with this city.
Now,
like, they can't stop. They're not opiate addicted.
They're shopaholics.
They're spendthrifts. They can't. They're like drunken sailors.
Yep.
You know, it's like turning a sailor loose after 6 months at sea in a house of ill repute. He won't have any money in an hour and a half. You know,
But the kicker is that the city reserves are about $500,000 right now. Viveris said this is significantly below what financial planners describe as a proper level for a city of this size. And that $500,000 is questionable because we've made so many guarantees to things like the school department and everything else.
Look.
And the last thing that has to be said is the city could see a further downgrade if it operates a deficit in the fiscal year that ends June 30th. If the city reserves dwindle further, or if the city shows it cannot balance its budget according to analysts, not according to the city, not according to the bull that they serve down from the 6th floor as they've done for numerous years, but according to the financial analysts. And this is the problem. People in Fall River believe the line of bull that gets served to them.
Yeah, and here it is again, the data, manipulating data. When she says it is described as a proper level for city the size of Fall River, well, guess what? That's a general statement. It's like saying you should have $10,000 in the bank if you have this particular size of income. That's not true. That's a manipulation of data. Now, I want them to tell me that it's okay for us to have 500,000 in the city that's the poorest city in the state of Massachusetts, that's one of the poorest cities in the country, that has one of the highest percentage of people living below the poverty level, that has one of the lowest household incomes in this city, in the country. I want Kathy Ann Viveris to get these people down here, and I want to present those statistics to them and tell them that manageable debt is a benchmark, a median figure for the average city. And Fall River is well below average, and I think the adjective was impoverished. Impoverished. We are an impoverished city, not by my estimation, by Moody and Poor's, by people who say we have a, what was the other one? Below average demographic, impoverished. These are the words that are used to describe Fall River. So get your marketing spin hat out, Linda, because we are not in the median. We are below the median. So that is not, you can't use that stat. It's a half-truth, a manipulation of fact to further lie to the citizens of Fall River. Stop it, because we're not going to let you do it.
And that's true. And I actually sent letters out to the Municipal Finance Oversight Board in regards to some of this stuff. But, we have to get off of that. We've only got about a minute left. I love this. This is what's called the epitome of propaganda from the Herald News. As Durfee sees slight drop in graduation rates, overall, Fall River's numbers improve. So talk about a dichotomy. Talk about talking out of both sides of your face. There are less people graduating, but we're improving our graduation rate.
Yeah. In a society where you need at least an associate degree to get a janitor's job, we can't get people out of high school. But that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Right. And it just gets to be crazy. And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, in the upcoming week. And, hey, people, this weekend, be safe. When you're shoveling out, lift with your knees, not with your back. And remember, don't push it. You want to be angry at the city council. Be angry at the boy emperor. Don't be angry at the snow. Mother Nature only delivers it. Hey, have a great weekend. And remember, this is the stuff to be angry about.
That's right. Stay angry and stay out of the snow and don't eat the yellow snow.
Nice class.